Good evening. Welcome to North West Tonight with Annabelle Tiffin. Our top story. Living in the shadow of a former chemical site, the Lancashire residents who fear a substance used there may have made them ill. They've now been told not to eat homegrown food. Also tonight, a court hears that the parents of a boy who was killed by a dog were warned by the RSPCA that it was a risk. 446 mountains conquered in just 45 days, a new record for Alex. But why did he have to climb one of them twice? Bowled over by the top tenpin teams. We're at the national championships, which are being held here in the region.
And it's been a tale of two halves today. Some of us with a lot of cloud and cooler temperatures. Others, glorious sunshine in Romley, where we got 28 degrees. How are we doing for the rest of this week? Join me at the end of the programme. I'll give you all the details.
People living in Thornton in Lancashire have been told not to eat homegrown produce for fear a carcinogenic chemical may have contaminated the soil. Our investigation team has found over 100 tonnes of PFOA was emitted from the former ICI chemical factory in the town for decades. It was classed as carcinogenic to humans 2 years ago. Hayley Hassel reports.
Towards the end of last year, residents living within a kilometre of an international chemical plant in Thornton, Lancashire, received an unexpected letter.
As you live within 1 kilometre of Hill House site, you may wish to avoid eating produce grown in your garden.
Wyre Council sent letters like this to around 6,000 residents, explaining that AGC Chemicals, formerly ICI, had been using a group of chemicals called PFAS since the 1950s. And traces of those chemicals had been found in the local environment.
PFAS are a group of chemicals, more than 10,000 of them are known. They've been around for about 80 years now. They have particular properties which make them very useful to us in modern life, so they're waterproof, they're stain-proof, resistance to oil, and they can withstand very high temperatures as well.
What danger do they pose to human life?
Well, the most studied compounds have been shown to be carcinogenic, so some have been linked to liver, kidney cancer, testicular cancer as well.
PFOA is one of those PFAS chemicals used by AGC Chemicals since the 1950s. They say this was in line with UK legislation at the time, and in 2012 they ceased using PFOA on the site. But because this chemical remains in the environment and cannot be destroyed, the historical use of PFOA could still be having an impact on people today. Rachel Salvage and her colleagues at Watershed Investigations, who report on all aspects of water pollution, found PFOA in the River Wyre in Thornton over 2 years ago.
We walked up the river path by the River Wyre and found stuff from the sites coming out and going directly into the river. We were quite shocked to find PFOA, which has been banned for a number of years now for being a carcinogen. We found that at 12,000 nanograms per litre, which is a really high concentration.
When you first realised these chemicals were toxic, what was your first reaction?
It was definitely a shock to know that that substance, which is so well documented as a toxic, could just be going into the River Wyre.
AGC Chemicals told us that any PFOA in the current effluent discharge is related to historical emissions and environmental background levels. They also say that independent ecological monitoring of the River Wyre shows no significant impact of AGC Chemicals emissions. Last year, a multi-agency investigation was launched between Wyre Council and the Environment Agency. They tested 22 areas of public land within a 5-kilometre radius of the chemical plant. They found elevated levels of PFOA in most of the soil samples, and the highest concentration was 25 times higher than the Environment Agency's screening levels. So how far is the place with the highest concentration?
Just behind those houses.
Oh, right. Stephen has lived in Thornton all his life. In his 20s, he used to water ski on the River Wyre, and for many years he grew and ate his own vegetables here. In 2016, he was diagnosed with prostate cancer.
I had a change in bowel habit, and I knew there was something, seriously wrong. Cut a long story short, they found a bowel cancer, and they also found a very big rectal cancer.
Stephen has now been diagnosed with 5 different cancers over the last 9 years.
It knocks your world apart.
Although Stephen will never know what caused his cancer, he thinks some activities he took part in may have had an impact.
I think my exposure from water skiing in my early 20s, growing all my vegetation, has probably had an impact.
NHS data by the Ribble River Trust tells us that cancer rates in Thornton are broadly in line with neighbouring areas. And medical experts have told the BBC that it is not possible to definitively link chemical exposure with a health effect like cancer in one individual person. There are many potential causes of cancer, and someone can be exposed to chemical pollution through multiple pathways. Wyre Council have told us that the safety and well-being of our residents is paramount, and we are doing all that we can to make sure this complex process moves forward without delay. And since their first round of testing, they've done more thorough tests on individual vegetables from the allotment and elsewhere.
So I've got the results from the test they did on the vegetables here on the allotment. PFOA were found in most vegetables, with beetroot, kale and charge and cabbage showing the highest concentrations.
Wow.
How does that make you feel?
Angry to a certain extent. It's been there all this time while we've been growing stuff. If I'd have been told sooner, I would never have taken the plot on.
Hayley Hassel, North West Tonight.
Well, let's get a roundup of some of the day's other news now. And a judge has told potential jurors in the trial of two brothers accused of assaulting police officers in an alleged disturbance to not be influenced by mainstream and social media. 20-year-old Mohammed Fahir Amaz and Mohammed Ahmad, who's 26, both from Rochdale, deny all charges over an incident at Manchester Airport's Terminal 2 last July. Footage was shared widely and shown on TV. A coroner has recorded a conclusion of death by misadventure at an inquest for the Liverpool drag star The Vivian. James Lee Williams died in January at the age of 32. Their family later revealed the artist had used ketamine, which brought on a cardiac arrest. Merseyside police say the last person receiving treatment after the Liverpool parade crash has now left hospital. More than 100 people were injured when a car hit the crowd celebrating the Reds' title win last month. 53-year-old Paul Doyle has been charged with a series of offences in relation to the incident. A Lake District mountain rescue team had to help 3 different Duke of Edinburgh expedition groups in the space of just 48 hours. 2 of them reported being disorientated, while the other group was said to be lost, wet and cold in their tent. The Langdale and Ambleside team has warned that planning and preparation is key for anyone heading into the mountains. The jury in the trial of a couple accused of the manslaughter of their son has heard that they were warned by the RSPCA ahead of his death. 3-year-old Daniel Twigg died after being attacked by a dog on a farm in Rochdale in 2022. Both parents have denied the charges against them. Davinia Ramos has been in court for us today.
Opening the case for the prosecution here at Manchester Crown Court, Mr John Elvidge KC told the jury that Joanne Bedford and Mark Twigg had moved into Carr Farm in Rochdale in March 2022 with their children. They were looking after the property and multiple dogs at the farm, which belonged to Matthew Brown at the time of the attack. Now, the court heard that Daniel Twigg, their youngest son, who was just 3 at the time of the attack, was able to enter into a pen next to the farmhouse where 2 dogs called Sid and Tiny were being kept. They were young but heavy dogs, both weighing around 50 kilos each. Now, the RSPCA had visited the farm whilst the couple were living there and warned Daniel's parents that their son could be at danger of being harmed by the dogs if he managed to get near them. But these warnings were allegedly ignored by the couple. Now, Daniel was able to enter into the pen where the dogs were unsupervised when the attack took place on the 15th of May 2022. He received a number of serious injuries, including multiple bites to the neck, and was pronounced dead at the scene. Now, both his parents deny the gross negligence manslaughter of their son. The trial will continue here tomorrow and is expected to last for 3 weeks. Davinia Ramos, BBC North West Tonight, Manchester.
Right, some more stories being read in the North West today. The Reform UK councillor Amanda Clare has been charged with assault and criminal damage after an incident at Winsford Pride. She represents the Winsford Dean ward on Cheshire West and Cheshire Council. The Dean of Blackburn, Peter Howell-Jones, has been suspended after a complaint was made against him under the clergy discipline measure, which is a procedure for investigating alleged serious misconduct. And Aldi has given a twist to its store closest to Heaton Park, where Oasis will play their concerts. The Prestwich store has changed its name to Alde to reflect the Mancunian pronunciation of its name. I think I did that quite well. Find out more at bbc.co.uk/local news or on the BBC News app. Now, disability rights campaigners from the region have joined hundreds of others in a protest outside Parliament this afternoon. It's ahead of a crunch vote tomorrow when MPs will decide whether to go ahead with the government's controversial welfare reforms. Well, let's go live now to Westminster, where we can speak to our political reporter, Kevin Fitzpatrick. So, Kevin, what's it been like there today?
Well, 400 people on Parliament Square this afternoon. People with disabilities from all over the country, including from our region, gathered together to sing songs, make speeches, hold up placards, hoping to persuade a majority of MPs to vote against these changes tomorrow. Now, we know that no one receiving disability benefit will now lose that after the government agreed its changes, and its tougher criteria to qualify will only affect future claimants, but there's still huge worry within this community, especially from people who fear their children could pick up the condition that they've got and then they won't get any financial support. Now, the government says the benefits bill is unsustainable, it's growing rapidly, it has to be reduced, it wants to support more people on long-term sick back into work, but a couple of people from our region who I spoke to today said this isn't the way to do it.
You can't get people back to work by punishing them and then making them more ill. How you get people back to work is by investing in things like back to work schemes.
The concessions still downplay certain disabilities. You can be very sick when first going on state sickness benefits and not have your wheelchair for many years and not be diagnosed properly for many years.
And Kev, as you mentioned, the government had made some concessions and there was a final update today from the government on changes. Do you think this is going to be enough to get those Rebel MPs on board?
Yeah, one last move today, an extra £300 million to support people back into work. There's clearly been a flurry of negotiations behind the scenes to persuade those around 120 MPs, many from our region, who've publicly said they won't support these changes, to get on board. It appears the government's confident now. Many will support it, even with gritted teeth. But in the Commons today, some from our region clearly weren't convinced.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. These so-called concessions go nowhere near far enough, and tomorrow I'll be voting against these cruel cuts. But I want to ask, could the Secretary of State name a single disabled person-led organisation that supports this legislation?
Now, a big Labour voice who's had his say on it this weekend is Greater Manchester Mayor Andy Burnham. He'd always said he was really worried about the impact of these changes. He's now actively encouraging MPs to vote to block this. So it's all lining up for a huge day for the country tomorrow. As MPs, many from our region will influence whether they decide to say yes or no to these groundbreaking reforms.
Thanks, Kev. Yeah, big day indeed, and you will be there for us tomorrow evening. Thanks, Kev. Now, climbing a mountain is an achievement for anyone, but how about climbing 446 of them, one after the other in just 45 days, and then running or cycling between each one? Well, that's what Alex Staniforth from Kendal has just done, scaling every mountain in England and Wales in what's called the 446 Challenge. But not only has he completed it, he's broken the record for doing it by 4 months. I spoke to Alex a little earlier.
I'm feeling a bit surreal, to be honest. I mean, today it's a bit strange. I don't really know where to go, or because I've been in this constant sort of pattern every single day of just getting up and running or cycling in the mountains, regardless of the rain or the sun or the shine. And it's hard to sink in, really.
What was the toughest one?
I think the hardest mountain in other ways was actually Bannerdale Crags, because I actually missed the mountain. I missed the top by about 100 metres. So I'd got down, I'd cycled onto my next mountain before I realised, so I had to cycle back the next morning just to do that one mountain. So in that regard, that was probably my hardest mountain of the 446 of them.
So you thought you'd got all the way to the top, got to the bottom and realised you had to do it all again?
I think I just knew in my head I had to do the right thing, and I didn't want to go all that way and make the claim without having really been on the actual
really
top.
Done it.
Very, very close, but
yeah, talk me through the practicalities of it then. How does it work?
The whole operation was a real mission, and every day was so different. I mean, some days I was doing up to 30 mountains. Some days I may do 0 because, you know, it's a big bike ride. For example, I cycled about 100 miles, from the Peak District. So there was a real, I guess, variety and lots of setbacks and challenges on the way that people don't always see.
So well, give us an idea. What did you have to face?
We had all sorts of things like missing a mountain, which then meant obviously changing all the schedule. There was bad weather, there was thunderstorms, there was a broken bike, which meant I fell behind again. Nothing you can't really deal with, but you just have to find a solution rather than find a problem.
Did you have a lot of support along the way? I mean, how did you kind of keep yourself going at the toughest moments?
I think it's like in mental health. When we're having those tough days, we all need the right people around us, and people who believed in the idea from the very start when, I didn't always actually believe in it myself. And it's often in the most unexpected times. For example, there was a man who kept coming from Darlington just to come and cheer me on, and then again, people actually ran with me, in all sorts of, rain and shine and wind. And
you mentioned about mental health, and that's one of the things that's really spurred you on to do this, isn't it?
Yeah, for sure. And I think I realised that doing something like this is entirely a choice, and people who are struggling in their mental health don't really have that same choice. And I think as well, I realised that on the 18th of June it was my 30th birthday, and I wanted to mark that by doing something a bit ridiculous, but also to really open a conversation around mental health and suicide, which is the biggest cause of death of people under 35 in the UK. That's 5 young lives every single day, and I feel grateful that I've had that chance to do this and to really open the conversation.
Congratulations, well done. It's such an achievement. Thanks, Alex.
Thank you.
It is an extraordinary achievement. 446 mountains and running in between each one, or cycling. Quite amazing, that, isn't it? I mean, what a feat to do. Anyway, we're talking about sport now, and we're talking about the much maligned Club World Cup. And now Pep Guardiola is voicing concerns about it as well.
He is, yeah, admitting it could potentially destroy City's upcoming season. Strong words from a man who's not known for making incisive press conference comments, but this time he was quite cutting. His side, most of whom have only had about 5 days off since the end of last season, play Al Hilal in a few hours' time in the last 16, knowing that winning the tournament will earn them around £92 million.
Game by game, month by month, we will see. And maybe in November, December, January, ask me, Pep, so listen, we are a disaster, we are exhausted, the World Cup destroy us. I don't know, because it's the first time in our life that's happened, right? So we will see.
Wimbledon's underway, and we've got some good news to start. The Isle of Man's Billy Harris has beaten Dusan Lajovic in straight sets on court 15 in the last hour or so. The 30-year-old is ranked 142 in the world, and this was his first win at Wimbledon. What a moment for him. Into round 2 he goes. Lancashire are totally in control on day 2 of their County Championship Division 2 match at Derbyshire. Having made a first innings total of 367, Lancashire then bowled Derbyshire out for 261 in their first innings, George Balderson taking the final wicket. Since then, Lancashire have made good progress. This was Keaton Jennings' half-century. A short time ago, Lancashire were 111 for 1 in their second innings, which gives them a lead of 217. Now, it's among the nation's most popular leisure sports, but whereas top-level tenpin bowling has massive exposure in countries like the USA, it's long struggled for coverage here. That's something that those who run the sport are hoping to change, with this region at the forefront. Altrincham has been hosting the national championships, and it didn't disappoint, with records broken and even perfect 300-point games, which is basically a player getting 12 strikes in a row. They've been racking up the strikes over the past 2 weekends at Atlantic Ball in Altrincham, with sporting glory at stake. This is the 63rd National Championships, and more than 200 of Britain's best bowlers are taking part. And as you can see, the standard is very, very, very good. Yes, there were some top talent on show, including England international and Hall of Famer Kim Oakley.
The love of the game for me is the challenge of me against those pins. I'm not playing anybody here, I'm playing it's against the pins. When I first started, we had 1 ball, then I moved up to 2 balls. Today I brought 7. So there's a real difference in that. Conditions about lanes and things, we know a lot more about that. We have machines that put it down. When I first started, you had a man and a bucket and a mop, and I mean, I really do mean that. So it has changed immensely.
As a local pairing, you're up against the best in the country. Is it daunting to be amongst the presence of so many greats?
I mean, I've had quite a lot of experience in the past, but for Johnny, it's very daunting for him. It's his very first tournament. So.
Yeah, well, this is our local alley. That's where we bowl during the league, during the week. Yeah. So for us, it's sort of like a bit of a home advantage to an extent, but it's a big task.
Almost as big a task as coaching the hopeless.
There you go. That's close. That's close. Dreaded 7-10.
7-10 split.
One of our bowlers yesterday actually picked that up. It's a very rare pickup. There are players in here that will put 400, 500 revolutions on the ball a minute because it creates more power when it hits the pin, so it makes the pin spin. At this level, you've got to work out what the lanes are doing in terms of the oil. And depending on where that oil is placed and how thick it is, depends on how much friction the ball sees on the lane. It's how much it hooks. So that's close.
Oh,
yeah.
That is poetry. A lot to live up to, but where there's a will...
Go on.
I didn't see it, I heard it.
No, he turned around and it struck very nicely. It was a great shot, that was.
Very good. Further education on the intricacies of the sport came from Steve.
This is what they call a pearlised ball, so it's shiny. It goes down the lane further, grips later, will turn in at a different angle. What I'm doing to this ball is I'm putting surface on it so that it'll go down the lane, it'll grip the lane better, slow the ball down, hits the dry, turns sooner.
It's a really great tournament, and if you do well and you become like a national champion, then that's like a very good accolade to have.
I think a lot of people consider it as like a fun sport rather than, I don't think many people know about the competitive side of it.
But they take it seriously in America.
I know, yeah, and in Asia and, to be honest, everywhere else. It doesn't really get enough coverage here, I don't think.
But they're working hard to change that.
The leisure side of bowling is booming tremendously at the moment. Bowling at the top level, we're struggling a little for numbers and we're struggling a little for facilities to bowl and hold tournaments. Like all minority sports, we really do need to get as much publicity for our sport as we possibly can.
Efforts to do so will continue. Annabelle just said, ooh, that was clever as the ball bent.
Yeah, not your one, though. But that was good. You got a strike.
I had to
First time?
Yeah, no, about the 10th. But
was it about the 10th?
Sometimes a bowler has to face the music.
Well, at least you're honest.
About the 10th, go.
It was about the 10th. Shall we have a look?
Let's see what you got.
Now we can mention about having things down the side.
No, it's not it. It's in the lane. No, I'm sorry I did it wrong.
I lost count, actually.
No, I can't.
I lost count. How many was that?
Well, our producer's been hard at work today. There's me thinking he's been messing around all afternoon.
And what did you say before you knew about that?
Why didn't you have bumpers on, Ian, love?
Well, clearly I needed them, didn't I? You foresaw it. Well done.
Oh, the magic of telly. Oh. You only showed the best bits.
He has never been this quiet in the studio, ever.
Whatever.
Okay, right. Well done.
Anyway.
How we laugh.
Yes, how you, new week.
New week, new name on the weather map.
Yeah, new name on the weather map. What is it?
Somewhere celebrating a very special birthday this Saturday, so keep your beady eyes on the weather map. You'll see it in a minute. Now then, today, a bit of a tale of two halves. We've had glorious spells of sunshine. Some of us got 28 degrees. Equally, we've had a lot of cloud out and about. In fact, I was in Trummacar Primary School earlier on today. Big shout out to all the children that I've been with. And it was cloudier and cooler there. big hi. Told them that I'd said hi if they worked hard this morning, which they did. Thank you for sending your photographs in. If you want to join me on socials, you can do, or better yet, you can become a BBC weather watcher and let me know what it's like in your part of the world. So, like I said, some of us today were hot. 29 degrees we nearly got. Fresher air is going to start to take over from tomorrow. We've got a cold front pushing its way through. We're looking at a lot of dry and fine weather through the week, but it becomes more unsettled as we head towards the weekend. Low pressure will take over. And we're talking about showers or longer spells of rain. But as we head through the next couple of days, you can see the dark oranges on the map clearing through. Low pressure starting to take over. It's not going to be quite as hot, not as muggy or uncomfortable at night. But sadly, not tonight. Tonight really will be quite uncomfortable, I think. Some of us, there's Croft on the map. Some of us through tonight are not going to drop off much lower than about 16 degrees. There'll be an awful lot of cloud out and about. Some clearer breaks down to southern parts of Merseyside and Cheshire. The odd shower around too. So a warm start to your day tomorrow morning. A lot of cloud out and about. Now, thicker cloud, particularly across Lancashire and Cumbria, is going to produce some outbreaks of rain. And on that cold front, you are going to see some showers, the odd sharp one out and about. But cooler, fresher air, 17 degrees on the Isle of Man, 23 degrees further inland. A calmer day to come on Wednesday, dry and fine, but we start to see fronts pushing in. Like I said, we're looking at showers or longer spells of rain as we head into the weekend. But it'll be a fine start to your day on Wednesday. Dry and fine, lengthy spells of sunshine and top temperatures coming in at around about 19 degrees. Croft has their special celebration weekend on Saturday.
Oh, well,
Carnival. At the weekend, showers at the minute on the forecast. Low pressure is in charge.
Okay.
And it'll be a bit breezy. But showers doesn't mean that you're all going to get them.
No, and so they're going to get decent enough weather for their carnival in Croft.
If it does rain, we can all go bowling.
We could all join Ian. We'll get the bumpers out.
We can prove that we're... I can't prove I'm better
But then
than you,
how many
actually.
turns did it take
Well,
you to do
loads,
that?
that was every one, clearly. So I didn't even know that footage existed.
You would... I'm not being rude, but you didn't do very well at all. And then what? Suddenly, out of nowhere, you got a strike.
Not being rude, though.
Yeah, because I was just playing him. He's an expert. I was hustling him. Yeah, my mate Paul, a bowling legend. So there you go.
Well done. You did a good job of hustling. That said, I will be back at 10:30. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
See ya.